what could we see we couldn't ever see if we could in a short amount of time, like a week long weekend or a couple weeks. We're never going to be able to see what we could have been in this stage of our life. That's just not possible. And I said I completely agree. I felt such relief in having this conversation.
What's interesting is that I didn't get this. This wasn't the message. This was not conveyed to me until after the meeting. Nope. I'm being so serious. Like, I'm not even going to argue with you about it because...
I felt she had, though.
Okay,
I was so shocked.
Because the night, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead in the conversation, but the night that you guys met and had dinner, I literally just stayed away from my phone, said it just was like, okay, like, this was what you said and decided and da-da-da. And then you called, and we had like 20 to 25 minutes of a conversation of how things went, and it was magical, and there was all this great, and she's great, and da-da-da. And I was like, I just have to ask you. Like I said, I've been dying to just not ask. I didn't know if I wanted to know. I did it, and you were like, oh, not like, yeah, we had decided before I left. And I was like, oh my God, I have been dying.
Yeah.
And terrified and worried. And like that day I was like, I'm going to ask her. I'm not going to ask her. Do you want to know? I don't want to know. Do I want to, no, I can't. Am I going to be okay if I don't know? Will it always be? And so then like you get to the moment, you're like, don't ask. It doesn't matter. It's okay. She's made her choices. Like it doesn't, none of that is important. And then I was like, I got to know.
Yeah.
And you were like, that's not been a thing for like weeks. And I was like, oh, we might be fighting.
Yeah. I remember when I was riding back to the hotel, getting ready to see her, I felt such relief because we had spoken and I knew what it was going to be, because all of a sudden just the thought of thinking that it was going to be anything more, even though you and I had spoken about it and I had permission, like it just made me sick to my stomach, because all of a sudden it was just that feeling of cheating, even though I wouldn't be cheating. Like it was, just like I wouldn't have been able to manage it. And so I remember just feeling such relief that I just was going to get to just see her and hear about her life and, talk about memories and reconnect, and just without the weight of that or the worry or that we hadn't talked about it or what is it going to be or, and then when she got there, I was very nervous, I remember, and I heard the knock at the door, and she had texted me that she was coming up, but it was just like, I remember being very nervous, and I opened the door, and it was, it's like that moment, like it's so shocking to, see someone that you had so much in your past with, and, but it was amazing to see her, and, we hugged, we went to dinner, and then we just talked and, shared photos and talked through, like basically caught ourselves up on the last 4 years of life, and just talked about everything that we had always wanted to talk about before, and things would just get in the way, and so we got to just be open and honest and talk about the past and the things that we went through and the disagreements and all of the angst and the fun stuff, and just like the funny memories and the fun memories, and just her wanting to know how did I end up, and like, the lockdown story and what the heck happened, and about the kids, and just the story of Owen being born, and the story of the twins, just all the stories, and you being a lawyer, just like it was fun. And so we just talked for hours and shared food and laughed and, till our sides hurt. And it was just, it was just such a great, gift, to both of us. And so, and then she walked me back, and then that's when she said to, give you her best, and we had goodbye. And then I just said, let me know that you made it back, since you're driving 4 hours in the middle of the night back home. And she was just, let me know she made it. And I said, even if it's the middle of the night and I'm sleeping, like, I want to know. And she just said, I'm just so grateful to get to reconnect with you again, and yeah, so it was this, gift that God gave me, you know, like I just am so thankful for you and thankful, you know, now that she reached out and that, you know, I just gotta come to have that closure. And then I was so excited to call you and tell you all about it. And, you know, then realized that I was like, oh, wait, what? And got to, you know, make sure that you were reassured. And, yeah, and it was just so certain that, you know, everyone was where they were supposed to be and that it was like this, like, woven together, you know, God thing. And just getting to feel that I got to be a blessing to her because she was going through so much and just needed, you know, a good person that she cared about, that really knew her, that cared what was happening to her, you know, and that she wasn't going through it alone. So that was also a really amazing thing. And so,
and I think it's, you know, it's always worth it. It's, you know, like to be gracious, to be open, to be wonder filled is always worth it, right? And that doesn't always mean the same thing that again, I'm trying to be very careful, right? Because everybody's being gracious, being open, being wonder filled is different.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that, I mean, would not survive even having
the conversations we
or
had,
even just, you know, exes have to be cut off.
Right.
Like they can't handle, you know, feeling whole in their relationship if there is, you know, someone from the past that, you know, then you know, there's too much, you know, the relationship wouldn't survive it, and there's trust issues, or they're honestly the person, it's too much temptation, or
and I think for us in our specific circumstances, this allowed us to be a part of someone's life in a meaningful way, and to be a part of each other's lives in a more meaningful way, and to get to have these things, right? To get to have this good now that's on this side of it, right?
Yeah.
And again, I feel like that's a blessing, and I don't think that always happens. Yeah. And so I think it's great that we get to have that on top of it.
I know. I mean, I feel very grateful because I feel like most people would be like, well, yeah, in a perfect world. And I'm like, I get to feel like I live in a perfect world.
Right. Right. Totally.
Yeah. Since then, Heidi and her have become like, you know, friends, and Heidi reaches out. We have helped, you know, followed her journey, and I'm very happy to report that there's very positive things that have come out of
getting better.
The journey that everyone was very scared wouldn't happen. So we've had great results, and Heidi invited her to come stay with us and meet the kids, and she was too sick and couldn't, but we had planned it, and she almost came, and then unfortunately last minute got sick, and and her health just couldn't handle it at that point of the journey.
But she's definitely someone that will
definitely plan on that happening again. But yeah, she's been super respectful, and we check on her as regularly as we can, and she
pray for her daily.
Yeah, she's just a light. And so I wrote her the other day, and it was the first time I've ever, you know, like when this first all happened, I remember Heidi asking me, like, because she was like, you know, pray for me that I find what you have. And Heidi's like, can you do that? And I was like, I wasn't at the place I could. I was like, you should probably say that prayer. Like it was hard for me. It was hard for me to think of, you know, even though that's very selfish because I was with someone else, but it was very hard when she first came back. And of course I wanted that for her, but being like the person that like daily was praying for it, I was like, that's asking a lot. But the other day I was, you know, texting and just kind of bragging about my wife and what amazing love, and kind of that most people, you know, a lot of people that I see and love, I don't see them always have what we have, and where they have what I had in my past, and I was very madly in love, but where I remember my ex and I talking to each other and saying, okay, I remember her saying, let's just never fight again. And I was like, well, we're women, so it's like, I doubt that's a thing. I was like, you know, let's just really try to respectfully get through it as quickly as possible and lovingly as possible and communicate better. And she's like, okay. And we had to have this conversation because our communication, which is another reason I think why I worried about us, is our communication was so horrible. And it wasn't because either of us were bad communicators. I'm like, I remember there'd be times where I'd be like, Lloydine, you have a degree in communication. Like, that is my literal degree. How are you this bad at it? And we just would like, it was as if we were just missing each other. And we'd be so shocked at the end of the fight and realize what one thought or what the other thought. And here we'd had like times that she had come through town and I could have seen her and she was surprising me, and then she didn't because of something I had said on text, because I was upset because I had misunderstood something and she had misunderstood something. And so now like we didn't even get to see each other, and now we're brokenhearted over it because we would have loved to see each other. It was this big misunderstanding, and we're like, how could we have misread that or misunderstood that or missaid that? Or, and it would go for days. I mean, just ugh. And so I just remember always worrying, like, okay, don't mess this up. Like, if you go on this trip or we go to see each other, like, don't cause this fight, or don't make this misunderstanding, or don't, like, the shoe's gonna drop. Like, don't mess this up because you want it to be, it's only a 4-day thing. You want it to be perfect. And you don't want it to be, you know, all these missteps.
All that pressure.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And so I would just worry about it. And I don't ever worry about that. I mean, I just, you know, it's like, and it's effortless, like breathing.
It speaks to like how much you cared for each other, that even in the midst of all of that, you kept trying, you know.
Yeah.
There was enough great and enough good. And getting to know her myself a bit, you know, she's great. I mean, you guys both are fantastic people, and yeah, I mean it's I mean, I'm very grateful, you know, that you are a part of this, that you are a part of this, but not to her detriment, right? Like I just am grateful, period, like full stop. Not that like, oh well, thank God she didn't come back in time, and that's a joke. Like I say that, but I'm teasing. It's more that like all of what I lived through, all of what you lived through, all of our experiences, they are the reason that today you and I are in this place, right? Yeah. And so in that regard, I'm grateful that like you did experience what you experienced throughout your whole life, right? And to be frank, I would have preferred for the two of you to have had closure, because I would have preferred to not live through this.
Right.
But I am very grateful that, you know, who she was in your life built beautiful things in you.
Well, and when I came back, you've said like that it was just obvious how much, because you weren't sure how, we both had talked about, you weren't sure how you were going to feel, like, you know, but I came back very
sure.
Yeah, very sure. And closure, like, got my closure.
Yeah.
And
well, and just again, this idea that like I am the choice.